with consent, but we like to post photos so that the broader community, not just queer people, but people questioning, allies, and just the broader community get to see that we are here, we do exist, and we know from the research that actually has a really, really big impact. So that's part of what we're doing with not just the events, but the Facebook group as well.
Yeah. And Sarah, I'd love to hear from you and from ACON a bit about why Queer Family were chosen as the winners.
Oh, well, it wasn't just ACON selecting, there was an advisory group, but we have had some contact and I can really speak to this group's enthusiasm. I think any opportunity Aidan can sniff out just grabs, and we often hear from them, which is wonderful. But I think that from what I'm hearing from the committee, there was such a recognition of the impact. It was in a regional area. It was reaching populations that otherwise don't have access to community connection, which, you know, Aidan and Holly have talked about being so crucial. But also, you know, running on limited resources and how much of an impact you can make when you give a little bit of an extra hand to community groups who do it amongst themselves, which is brilliant. And I think the use of volunteers, the lived experience, you know, it's all at the heart of it. And that's what our community's always been about. We've got a history of doing for one another, and also walking with our allies. And this group particularly embraces the allies, embraces diversity, does experiences and groups and different activities that are for everyone, which is lovely. So all ages, all different identities. And I think when you get to regional areas, you see that blended a lot more. Whereas I think Aidan said, you can see yourself in Sydney, but it's often, you know, the gay men are in one corner and the lesbians are in another. And, you know, so it's really nice to see such rich diversity come together and that embracing of all identities in a really nice supportive way. I think the other thing that we really appreciate is that the group are really working on resilience. We know that our communities have higher rates of suicide, the highest in the country, higher rates of anxiety and depression. And, you know, that can really get us down. And I think this year's been really tough for a lot of our community who are particularly hit given the nature of work that we're in, which is often in the industries that have been impacted, the lack of travel, the removing, I guess, of those physical connections with people. So it's really great to see groups that keep people connected and find ways of doing so, and do it in a way which celebrates that, you know what, we might have higher rates, we might struggle, but at the end of the day, we're okay. We look after each other, and we do have really great lives, which I think particularly for young people or people who might not be out within their own social circles, it's aspirational to see that, as Aidan has said, smiling, happy people, you know, enjoying life. It's really crucial.
Thank you. That's some really great insight, because I know ACON has done a lot of research and work with communities all across the state. Just briefly before the next question, if I can remind everybody, if you've got any questions for our winners or for Sarah, please don't hesitate to add them into the comments. We really do love to hear from you. So you've all spoken about the importance of lived experience in this project. What types of people are involved in Queer Family? What's inspiring people to become part of it?
That's a great question. I think that Sarah alluded to the fact that we are incredibly diverse. So we've deliberately been actively inclusive of all of the identities and actively inclusive of people with lived experience of mental health needs and, you know, other intersections. So we, as a result, we have an incredibly diverse group of people, both on the management board. We've got all the identities represented, and we have a really high percentage of trans and gender diverse people accessing us, which is really great. And I mean, we really are all the people under the rainbow getting involved. Recently, we've had a lot more contact from young people or parents of young people. So that's certainly a direction that I'm interested in pursuing as well, because we obviously need to look after our queer youth. And I also have a youth background, as Sarah would know. So, you know, that's something that I'm passionate about as well, protecting our queer youth and showing them the wonderful life that we do have and that we can have as a community, and that we're really there for each other.
I love that phrase you used, actively inclusive. I think that's really an interesting point. Holly, from your perspective, what was it like coming into a group that is actively inclusive of a vast variety of identities and ideas?
I thought it was very much like a coming home feeling, very much like coming home. It was very warm. It was very welcoming. It sort of represents, you know, really the diversity of the world, where there is all different people, all different ages, people with, you know, mental health needs, physical health needs, people in recovery. Yeah, it meant you were always going to find the person you wanted to talk to almost about something. And I think the radically inclusive and intentionally inclusive also means you're reaching people who aren't out yet, which is really important. I think that's a really important, you know, group of society, to feel included and still feel part of everything.
Yeah, they don't need to have a sort of proof before they can become included.
That's right. And I think by putting things up into the Facebook group and having our photos up as well, it means people who aren't out yet or are just questioning get to also see, because we're in small towns, get to see the faces they saw in the Facebook groups, perhaps in their workplace, in the stores near them, down the street, and begin to create community that way as well. For those people who are also wanting to create community organically, some people don't want to do it, you know, through the medium of social media, but it allows, the social media allows people to see who's out there and then can just go and chat to someone on the street. And I think that's capturing some of the beauty of a small community as well. I think that's really something that we do really well.
Which I have to say is challenging for me, because I now have people walking up to me on the street, and I'm actually terrible with names and faces. So I don't know. Sometimes I have people walk up to me and I haven't actually met them, but they've seen photos of me or they know who I am. And coming from the city originally, it's quite confronting to have that small town thing happen, to be almost have some celebrity status, which is certainly not why I did this, but it's really good though to actually be able to walk down the the main street of town and to have somebody who's a bit shy and a bit closeted, or a younger person actually see me and go, "There you are, I know who you are." So yeah, it's intimidating, but it does happen, and I know it does good for people.
And I think going back to what Sarah was saying about the younger people seeing adults out and living happy lives, I just think that's so important. And I actually take that role really seriously, both like in my professional life as a social worker, but also my personal life, because often, not always, can be an amazing time being a young queer, but also can be some of the hardest, most confusing times. And to see that it's okay, just get through this part, I think that's just really valuable.
Yeah, so it clearly has a big impact on an interpersonal level. I'd love to hear about how it's affected the Northern Rivers community more generally.
Yeah, I think Facebook's probably got quite an important part to play in that. So we advertise our events through all of the Facebook groups. I think there's got a list of about 91 Facebook groups that I advertise our events and on. And what that means is that the whole community, obviously the whole community is on Facebook, they see queer, LGBTQIA+, they see this stuff popping up regularly. So what I believe that does is help reduce homophobia and transphobia, and just normalizes who we are. It also normalizes our lives. So we go kayaking, we go to Minion Falls. This is, it's not all about, I mean, I love Mardi Gras, but it's not all about getting your butt cheeks out and going down Oxford Street. We only do that once a year. The rest of the time, we have normal lives. So I think that's really valuable for the rest of the community to see, and certainly we're getting a bit of a name for ourselves as well. I was in a cafe just the other day and somehow started talking with the barista, and another one of them popped up going, "Queer Family, I've heard of them." I'm like, well, this is who we are. So it's starting to get out there in the broader community, which is really, really exciting. And another aspect of that is we've been in conversations with Byron Shire Council and also ACON about improving training and things for other mainstream services, so that they are better equipped to understand LGBTQIA+ needs and to provide better services for our communities. So we're members, Holly and I both attend interagencies and things like that. So we're getting at different levels, with the professionals, with the community, with the cis-het people, and with the queer people. So we're trying to hit all the different people.
It's amazing. And